Honored to welcome Dr. Kamal Gupta on behalf of Lucknow College of Surgeons, the President, Professor Ramakant, and Secretary, Dr. Vinod Jain. Dr. Kamal Gupta, you requested to start your presentation. We are all eager for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we are in process of looking at you. Yeah, we are seeing your screen. Correct.
That is a wonderful type of screen sharing you've done, and we can see you also. Dr. Kamal Gupta, once again, welcome.
Yeah, so thank you very much, sir. Honorable dignitaries, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. It's a great honor for me to present Dr. Naseem Ansari's oration for Lucknow College of Surgeons. I am grateful to Professor Ramakant, who has been a great teacher and is a father figure for me, and Professor V.K. Jain, Secretary, for giving me this opportunity. I take this opportunity to thank my mentor, my guru, and my teacher, Professor Kushal Mittal, from whom I have learned a lot. So coming to today's topic, I shall be speaking on hemorrhoids, past, present, and future. So hemorrhoids are inflamed or swollen anal cushions, normally present at 3, 7, and 11 o'clock position. But if we go through the original literature of Thompson, which was written way back in 1975, there was mentioned about a fourth anal cushion, which is present posteriorly at 6 o'clock position. Now, coming to the epidemiology, by the age of 50, about 50% of population may experience one or more symptoms of hemorrhoids. Male to female, age group 35 to 65 years, and men are twicely more affected as compared to women. Now, coming to the past, the word hemorrhoids, it is derived from a Greek word, hema means blood, and rous means flowing. The name hemorrhoids was coined by Hippocrates way back in 460 BC. And then the term piles is derived from Latin word pila, which means a ball. So a statement was passed by John of Ardring. Common people call them piles, the aristocracy calls them hemorrhoids, and the French call them figs. Now coming to the ancient history, before Christ, hemorrhoids were considered to be a curse of God, demons, and stars. Egyptians used to treat this disease, for bleeding per rectum by an ointment made of acacia leaves, although no definite name was given for the disease. Indian medical history, the name given was Arsh, and till date it is known as Arsh in Ayurveda, and the procedure of choice remained Kashar Sutra. Then Hippocrates, who was known as father of Western surgery, he recommended simple ligation for piles, burning using hot iron, surgical excision, and chemical cauterization using aluminium, this alum and copper. But the most important thing to know is whatever procedures they were doing, they were all doing it without proper understanding of anatomy. 15th century, there were few very important surgeons, very reputed surgeons in the European era, but unfortunately, they did not publish the work, and the procedures landed in the hands of barber surgeons, which lasted for approximately 350 years. Then in 18th century, there was a strong conflict between qualified surgeons and barber surgeons, which led to formation of Royal College of Surgeons. Two diseases were there very predominant, which were done by barbers. Those were hemorrhoids and fistulae. 20th century saw the return of science to medicine. In 1934, Milligan Morgan coined the name anal canal, And after that, they told us about all the different structures which are present over there. And in 1937, Milligan Morgan described the surgical procedure, which is today known as gold standard for hemorrhoids. The procedure is called Milligan Morgan's hemorrhoidectomy. Now, coming to the anal cushion anatomy, way back in 1937, when hemorrhoidectomy was being done, people did not know what they were cutting. Either they were just hemorrhoids or the hanging part, which was a prolapsing part or herniating part they used to call at that time. So anal cushion theory was given by Thompson in 1975, and anal cushions are disruptions of submucosa at 3, 7, and 11 o'clock position. Now, coming to the anatomy of anal cushions, then anal cushions have got two components. One is a vascular component, which is comprised of CCR, that is corpus cavernosum recti, which are formed by superior hemorrhoidal artery. Although middle hemorrhoidal artery also supplies the anal cushion, but it doesn't participate in formation of CCR. Non-vascular component is comprised of elastic fiber and connective tissue, and as you can see, these are ligament of Tietz, which the fibers go medially from the conjoint longitudinal muscle. Different theories have been postulated for etiopathogenesis of hemorrhoids, but from time to time they were they got out. And the currently prevalent theories which are there, it is a sliding anal cushion theory by Thompson, which was given in 1976. Then hypervascularization theory by Aigner came in 2006. Now it was very clearly stated that there is 3 times increased blood flow in the arteries, and the same blood flow goes into the hemorrhoids, increasing the size of the anal cushions. Then theory of staining and constipation. It is again, we tell all the patients about different type of diets and all which they have to take. So low fiber diet leads to less bulky stool, leads to staining at defecation, then increased intra-anal pressure, decreased venous return, and leading to enlarged hemorrhoids. So what can be the fate of anal cushions? Well, either they can bleed or prolapse, or they can thrombose. Now, in addition to the theories which was given by Aigner et al., there are different factors, risk factors, which are associated with hemorrhoids. Constipation, staining at the time of defecation, and sitting on the commode for a long time, they remains the predominant factors, but other factors like pregnancy and obesity are also associated with the disease. Now, coming to the classification, by location, it may be external or internal or mixed, and by degree, which is only for internal hemorrhoids, there may be grade 1 to grade 4. External hemorrhoids, they are of 2 types, broadly speaking. One is, when there are present bulges because of increased varicosity or a dilatation of the inferior hemorrhoidal plexus. And secondly, a thrombus formation may take place in the perianal area. Now, this condition was called as subpectinate hematoma by Thompson, but all of us call them external hemorrhoids. So the management remains very simple. Just go for excision, and the grade of evidence is grade 2C. Now, the classification which we follow today is Gallagher's classification, which was given for internal hemorrhoids in 1980. So first degree means only the bleeding is there, but there is no prolapse. Or other way, some people do call that that it is the predominant blood vessels which are present over there. Second degree, when there is the anal cushions, they prolapse, but it is limited up to the anal orifice. Grade 3, when the patient has to reduce them manually, and grade 4, when the cushions are not, they just lie outside and the patient is not able to reduce them. Now, if we see the original classification of Thompson, which was given in 1975, at that time the first degree piles were described as the prolapse of mucosal moiety, means only the mucosa prolapses, but there is no prolapse of the submucosa. But unfortunately, this classification is not in vogue, although it is based on prolapse. Mixed hemorrhoids, as I said, it is internal external. Now this is a picture to show how they look, and this happens when the internal part is bigger. And secondly, we know there is anastomosis between the superior hemorrhoidal artery and the inferior hemorrhoidal artery. So once, because of anastomosis, when the internal hemorrhoid part becomes big, the external component also appears. Evaluation history should include the extent, severity, and duration of symptoms as bleeding, prolapse, presence or absence of pain, then history of bowel habits, frequency, consistency, and ease of evacuation. Now, from here, we can differentiate it from a condition like IBD. Then history of constipation is very important, and then family history of colorectal cancer. Physical examination, we prefer all of the positions to be examined in left lateral position. And the perianal area, it is very important to examine that area. And digital rectal examination should be done in all the cases without failure. And we should always check the anal tone. Then proctoscopy is a must. And always ask the patient to strain. Because when a patient says something is coming out which reduces on its own, we have to differentiate what type of problem we are facing with. So this is how it looks. This patient had come that something comes out of the rectum, and when I asked about the bleeding, the simple answer was, "Haan, kabhi kabhi hota hai," but we could not make out any, hemorrhoids. Then we asked the patient to stand on the table, and as you can make out, it's a prolapsed rectum and not hemorrhoids. So next thing is then how to differentiate between rectal prolapse and circumferential piles. Well, the presence of sulci indicates that it's grade 4 hemorrhoids, but in case they are concentric fold, that means it is rectal prolapse. Now coming to the symptoms, it is a bleeding is normally painless. It is bright red in stool. Dripping may be there, or a spurt may be there, or sometimes the patient says that when he cleans it with the tissue paper, there is a staining on the paper. Then pain during bowel movements, normally it is present in Fisher-in ano. Pruritus any may be there in 2 to 2nd degree to 4th degree hemorrhoids because of increased mucosal discharge. Then extreme pain may be associated with thrombosed or strangulated hemorrhoids. Now, many people ask whether it's an arterial or venous disease. Previously, it was supposed to be a venous disease, but now we know it is an arterial disease because the pH of the blood is also in between 7.35 to 7.45. Another commonly question which is asked by many people, that is from where the bleeding is taking place. Well, the bleeding is always from the arterioles which are present in the lamina propria. Now we know mucosa has got 3 layers. So once the epithelial layer gets destructed, after passing a stool, so the bleeding which is present is from the lamina propria, and the vessels, they just reach over there through the submucosa and muscularis propria. Now coming to the differential diagnosis, broadly speaking, all the causes of lower GI bleed should be ruled out. Whether it's inflammatory bowel disease, diverticular disease of colon, angiodysplasia, rectal polyp, fissure and fistulas, or colorectal cancer. Now, the most important thing to know is that any patient who comes with bleeding per rectum and is above 50 years of age should be subjected for sigmoidoscopy. But in case a patient is having bleeding per rectum with a family history of colorectal cancer and is at approximately 40 years of age, he should be subjected for complete colonoscopy. Now, these are the guidelines which are, from American Society of Colorectal Surgeons. So coming to the management, grade 1 and grade 2, dietary and lifestyle modification, medical management and office procedures, and grade 3 and 4, surgical intervention is required. So coming to the lifestyle modification, as per Cochrane database, fiber plays a very important role, as I told you at the time of training also. So more the fiber, bulkier is the stool. And as per recommendations by practice parameters, it is the recommendation is 1B, that means strong recommendation. So we should always encourage the patient to take a lot of fiber. Medical management, flavotonics, micronized purified flavonoid fraction, the popular brand I think which is available in India is Deflon. So Deflon, it increases the tone of the vessels. At the same time, it decreases the lymphostasis. So that's can be used. And many people say whether flavonoids can be, they ask whether it can be used in pregnancy. As per literature, they can be used in pregnancy. And as per recommendation from the American Society, the evidence is grade 2B. Topical applications, anesthetics, steroids or antiseptics. Now many people use it, but prolonged use can lead to allergy reaction, and the grade of recommendation is quite weak, that is 2B. Ambulatory treatment, the most important 3 procedures which we do in routine, that is rubber band ligation, sclerotherapy, and infrared coagulation. So I will just share a small video with you. The first is rubber band ligation. This video is of Dr. Pravesh Sheikh. So insert the proctoscope. You will see the bulge in the proctoscope or the pile mass. Now hold it with a forceps and put the Barron's, this is a Barron's ligator, so we can release the band over there. So once the band is released, make sure you stay above the dentate line, because in case we take the dentate line along with the band, the patient is going to have a lot of pain. He may have vasovagal shock on the table, and immediately if you realize this, remove it within 30 seconds before the inflammation is there. Another thing, what happens that sometimes, the pile mass which comes is very small. So chances of slippage of, band can be there. So what we can do is, once the band has been released, after that, we can inject 1 ml of normal saline to increase the size. So that is what we can do, so that there is no slippage of the band. So coming to the next video, that is sclerotherapy. The common agents which we use is STD and polidocanol 3%. So first of all, insert the proctoscope and identify the pile masses. It's a very good procedure for grade 1 and grade 2 hemorrhoids. So once you have identified, then previously phenol with almond oil was used, but now it is STD or polidocanol. This is a Gabriel syringe you can use. Now this is a video of Dr. Kushan Mittal, which I am showing to you. And 0.5 ml of solution can be injected in each pile mass. And in case it is required, the procedure may be repeated after a month or so. This is a procedure. And third is IRC. This is what we do in routine. So the principle is de-arterialization. So the heat is applied at the apex of the pile masses, and after that, a whitish scar is formed because of protein denaturation. So we can do all the 3 pile masses in one go only. So this is how it looks after the procedure is over. The white scar formation, which turns to normal color after 10 days. Then coming to the surgical management of hemorrhoids, which is mainly for grade 3 and grade 4. The most important procedure is hemorrhoidectomy. Open is Milligan-Morgan, closed is Ferguson's technique. Stapled hemorrhoidopexy, that is Dr. Longo's procedure, PPH, that can also be done. And minimal invasive surgery, it includes DG-HUG, that is Doppler guided hemorrhoidal artery ligation with rectoanal repair, or laser hemorrhoidoplasty. Another procedure which we can do is transvenous suture hemorrhoidopexy, which is Dr. Chipta's procedure. So coming to just Milligan-Morgan, so I will just share with you how it is done. So this is the case having internal external hemorrhoids. So this is the marking. Again, this is a video from Dr. Pravesh Sheikh because I don't do it anymore. Anodrome dentate line and mucosa is marked. So at the mucosa, you take a pedicle stitch. Now, original Milligan Morgan, in that we used to always put a clamp. And this is the perianal skin which should be taken. And then a V-shaped incision is made using cautery. And the submucosal tissue is separated. Make sure you don't injure the internal sphincter, which is like next to it. So once it is done, just go for the ligation at the pedicle, separate it, and to decrease the raw area, we can close the wound. Now that was the principle behind Ferguson. Always leave about half a centimeter of the space without stitching so that any collection, in case it is present, it can come out. Same procedure can be repeated at the other pile masses. So many people ask, should lateral internal sphincterotomy be done along with hemorrhoidectomy? Well, the answer is no. Because the increased anal tone, it has been proved beyond doubt, is that it is because of the presence of hemorrhoids, and it is not because increased anal tone leads to hemorrhoids. So, but in case there is an associated fissure which is present, always go for lateral internal sphincterotomy along with hemorrhoidectomy or any procedure of choice which you are doing. Complications, we know rectal bleeding, postoperative can be there, or urinary retention can be there, and later on anal stenosis is one of the complications, especially in circumferential hemorrhoids, where a lot of anodrome of perianal skin has been taken. Stapled hemorrhoidopexy, this is a procedure which is widely practiced in India, and the principle behind is dearterialization, at the same time fixation of the pile masses up inside. So basically, you are not doing anything for the hemorrhoids. Only thing is we are going and fixing it up. Approximately 5 centimeter above the dentate line, 4 to 5 centimeter we go. And this is a procedure which is banned in UK and US, but in India, most of the surgeons are practicing and they are having very good results with this. Although overall international figures, if we see, the recurrence is up to 40% with this. So coming to the minimal invasive procedures, Doppler guided hemorrhoidal artery ligation. Now DGHAL was first published by Morinaga in 1995, and it is a good procedure for grade 2, grade 4, and the principle is dearterialization. And what we do, we take a proctoscope inside, having an ultrasonic probe at the tip. All the vessels are identified, normally 6 to 8 branches are there, and then we start ligating them through the ligation window. Along with that, many times we do require another procedure that is called mucopexy or rectoanal repair. Although it is a minimal invasive procedure, but the recurrence rate is very high in case it is done alone. So I will tell you that instead of DGHAL, how can we go for FGHAL, that is finger guided hemorrhoidal artery ligation, because DGHAL probes are very expensive. One probe costs 10,000 rupees per procedure. But the same procedure can be done after using your fingers. So I will just show it to you in the video. Yeah, so the point of ligation is 2 to 4 centimeter above the dentate line, and the depth of the vessel, it should, when we are 2 to 4 centimeter above the dentate line, at that time the depth of the vessel is 3 to 5 millimeters. But as we keep on going up, the depth of the vessel keeps on increasing. Now that is the reason there are posterior lateral branches of the superior hemorrhoidal artery, which form CCR, cannot be ligated because they are quite high and quite deep, and there is no way, whether with FGHAL or with DGHAL, we can ligate them, and maybe that is the reason the recurrence is so high after simple procedure of DGHAL. So coming to the next procedure, that is laser hemorrhoidoplasty. So I will just share a video with you. So this is a case of grade 3 hemorrhoids, as you can make out. So first step is assessment of hemorrhoids. Insert 3 gauze pieces and gradually bring them out. So this is a dentate line. As I said, we have to stay 2 to 4 centimeter above the dentate line, and this is the way we can palpate the vessels. It can be palpated very nicely. Now, take a figure of 8 stitch. Now we use 20 Vicryl 5/8 round body needle, that is 27 mm, and take a figure of 8 stitch. See the pronation and supination movement of my wrist, and ask your assistant to go for milking. So disengorgement is can be done. After that, just go for the ligation. Then keep on palpating the vessels and keep on rotating your proctoscope. All the vessels which are palpable should be ligated. So it's a very simple step, and it hardly costs anything. Only the cost is of, the thread, which may cost around 200 rupees. And after that, keep on rotating the proctoscope. That is 360 degree. You have to rotate. Make sure no vessel is left. Then go for laser hemorrhoidoplasty. So the point of entry is dentate line because the submucosa ends over there. So at the time of insertion, 6 watts 1 second pulse, then 6 watts 3 second pulse for activation of fibers. And gradually you start withdrawing it outside every half a centimeter. Make sure that you don't give more than 150 to 200 joules per pile mass. So once we have gone for laser hemorrhoidoplasty, we prefer to keep an ice finger to reduce post-operative edema. And this is a picture taken after 14 days. You can make out the prolapse part is gone, but overall it may take 6 to 8 weeks for the prolapse to, for the fibrosis to occur. Then why should we go for hemorrhoidal artery ligation with laser? Well, as I said initially, anal questions, it has got two components. The CCR part is partially taken care of by hemorrhoidal artery ligation, and that is where this thing hypervascularization theory by Aigner is taken care of. But the non-vascular part, that is the prolapsing part, that is taken care of by fibrosis, which is as a result of laser hemorrhoidoplasty. At the same time, the CCR part, which is formed because of the posterior lateral branches, that is also taken care of by laser hemorrhoidoplasty. So coming to the complications, pain, it is much less as compared to any other procedure. Another mild complications like edema, burning, hemorrhage, thrombosis, or skin tags may be there. So coming to the procedure protocol, what should be done? Grade 1, only the medical management, or we can add any office procedure. Grade 2 to grade 4, we can do any procedure of our choice. Now, whatever procedure we do, always there is recurrence. Although from this table, it looks with the laser hemorrhoidoplasty, the recurrence is less, but it may not be true because overall, long-term results are still awaited. Then why we have recurrence every time we operate and whatever we do? Well, it may be because of the formation of collateral circulation, and secondly, because if we go through the publication of Aigner, which was in 2006, there is nothing with us so far, either medical or surgical management, where we can take care of hypervascularization theory, that is the which increase where it shows there is 3 times increased in the caliber of the blood vessels. So we have nothing to do for that. So over a period of time, hemorrhoids, hemorrhoidectomy procedure has changed. Simon, who was the first president of St. Mark's Hospital, he had devised this technique. But what he used to do, he used to go for high ligation up to the anorectal ring, and after that, the lower extent of cutting used to be up to mucocutaneous junction. Now, as a result, a lot of raw area was created, which later on used to lead to, anal canal stenosis, and the incidence reported was approximately 10%. Then Miles procedure in 1919 came, where excision, the upper end was up to the pedicle of the, hemorrhoids, but lower end was up to the mucocutaneous junction. But because of this, there were skin, tags which were formed after hemorrhoidectomy. So what Milligan Morgan did, they kept the upper limit same, that is the pedicle of the ligation, and below they started taking the perianal skin. So although we always say that Milligan-Morgan is modified Simmons, I think from the literature it bears that it should be more known as modified Miles procedure rather than Simmons procedure. So bottom line, to cut, we can, I mean, any of the procedures we can choose. Hemorrhoidectomy, that means cutting. Hemorrhoidopexy can be done, that is PPH or staplers. Hemorrhoidoplasty can be done, that is laser hemorrhoidoplasty. Now coming to the future, I think we still need better, understanding of etiopathogenesis. Lifestyle modification will remain the key, especially in the younger generation. Superior hemorrhoidal artery embolization is also being tried for terminal branches, but their role is limited only to grade 1 and grade 2 in active bleeding. Otherwise, they do recommend that in case there is active bleeding in grade 3 or grade 4, go for glue. Then we still need something to do for increased caliber of the vessels or the increased blood flow as hypervascularization theory is concerned. And still, I think a minimal invasive procedure or a procedure with minimal recurrence should be there, or it is still awaited. And as Ramakant sir always says, the best is yet to come. So whatever we gather from everything from the past and present, I think whatever we are doing in today's time, we have gathered everything what they were doing in the last 1,000 years, right from Hippocrates to Indian, system of medicine. So at that time, 1,000 years ago, they did not understand proper anatomy. So today we are doing all the procedures, same procedures we are doing with better understanding of anatomy. So I will conclude by saying, आईना वही रहता है, चेहरे बदल जाते हैं. Thank you very much.